Hello. Well, the Trump administration's imposition of import tariffs on steel and aluminium have certainly put trade and protectionism at the top of the global economic agenda. The big question is whether these tariffs will lead to a full-blown trade war. Now, there's an optimistic view, which is that every US president since Jimmy Carter in the 1970s has imposed selective tariffs, and those measures did not lead to a full-blown trade war. I think there are three reasons why the stakes are higher this time round. The first is that the US administration has invoked national security as the reason for imposing the tariffs. Using that rather unusual justification makes it harder for other countries to contest these tariffs under the rules of the World Trade Organization. That means that there is a rather greater likelihood that things could spin out of control with tit-for-tat imposition of tariffs. Secondly, Donald Trump is, in rhetoric at least, certainly the most ardently protectionist US president since the 1930s, and his views are long-standing and are strongly held. I think that increases the risks that we see more tariffs and more measures which interfere with free trade. And thirdly, the backdrop to the steel and aluminium tariffs is a wider geopolitical, economic and trade competition between the United States and China. Now, the US feels very strongly, and the US administration is investigating this at the moment, that the Chinese are guilty of theft of intellectual property, particularly from US creative media and technology companies. So there is this underlying rivalry which creates the risk of an escalation in trade measures between China and the United States. Now, the steel and aluminium tariffs in themselves, the economic effect is really going to be very small. The steel industry in the States employs 85,000 people in a jobs market of over 150 million people. So the economic effects of tariffs are not going to be great. Indeed, actually, most economists think that any job gains in the steel industry as a result of protecting the steel industry will be more than offset by job losses in industries in the United States which consume imported steel. Well, what are the things to watch for? I think there are two big events which are going to matter in terms of trade over coming months. One is the renegotiation of the North America Free Trade Agreement between Mexico, the United States and Canada, and whether that agreement is amended rather than destroyed. And the second big issue is, where does America go with its investigation into alleged Chinese copyright theft? Do we see further measures imposed to restrict Chinese trade? So I think overall the message is these tariffs on steel and aluminium, their economic effects are not going to be huge. The question is what happens next. And I think on that the risks are greater than we have seen in previous rounds of tariffs imposed by US presidents since the 1970s.